Hello to everyone in the internet. It is currently Frigga's Day, January 18th, 2019. I am Nathan of Washington, and you're watching The Un-Globalist, and this is the news. Alright everybody, I'm in one hell of a mood today because we got some stories that... Woohoo! I love this job. I love this job. Oh, of course we haven't got to the real good ones yet. But boy, is Nancy Pelosi a dirty, dirty girl. Naughty girl, naughty girl. But anyway, Terry Bean, henceforth referred to as Mr. Bean, a Democratic donor, had sexual relations with a teenage boy. Now, see, here's the thing. I am not a straight person. I am a bisexual. But when I see the way other people like me, other LGBTs, the way they act, I am so disgusted with their behavior, because I am a cultural conservative. And I have nothing against, kids with two dads or two moms, but they should, resemble the nuclear family, as closely as possible. That conservative lifestyle is the way to go. And when I see the way other LGBTs other than myself act sometimes, I literally just want to buy a rocket ship and blast myself off into space. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. Farnsworth said it best. But I can't stand these people. And the funny thing is, a lot of my fellow LGBTs who are acting so rapey, surprise, surprise, they're in bed with the Democrats. So, I mean... Oh God, if I didn't hate the Democratic Party enough. I'm just all giggles today. It's just, what I've been researching today for the show has been making me very giggly, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm high. I mean, I have nothing against pot. Maybe I inhaled some pot or something. But how Mr. Bean and his boyfriend had arranged a meeting with a 15-year-old through Grindr. Now, I don't know how the hell a 15-year-old gets to set up a Grindr account. There should be an age restriction on that shit, I would think. There should be a major age restriction on that. Mind you, I have nothing against the idea of teenagers having sex, just as long as they're not having sex with adults. Right? If you're a teenager having sex outside your age range, well, you're opening yourself up to manipulation. An older, wiser, more wily adult manipulating your emotions to get what they want and screwing you in the process, in more ways than one. I mean, come on. If you really must have sex, then do it with another teenager. That way, at least you'll, be less likely to be manipulated. Although sometimes teenagers do rape one another, which should be taken very seriously. At the end of the day, consent must be absolute. Above all else. And if you haven't even gone through puberty yet, you shouldn't even be thinking about sex. Alright? You shouldn't even be thinking about it till at least maybe 14, 15 years old. And even then, you should be way more concerned about academics and getting through school. That should be your priority. But Bean had donated $700,000 to former President Barack Obama. The Dems seem to associate themselves with some pretty scummy folks, some pretty rapey-ass people. It's kind of a statement on the party at this point. But good old Mr. Bean here, being a real estate developer, back in the old days, that would have given him access to victims. Right? This was a very powerful man. Bottom line is, I'd say put him away for a good long while. Do at least 15 years in prison, maybe even 20. Because they might have found him on Grindr, but judging by the details, I'd say that this kid may or may not have fully consented. I don't think he did. To consent to a 2-on-1. Just doesn't seem very likely. This whole scenario seems incredibly rapey. Seems very rapey indeed. There was no consent there. Teenagers shouldn't have sex with adults, and they certainly should not be getting raped. This is not okay. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, soon to die. Since apparently the old hag has developed pneumonia. Yeah, that's right. I said old hag. I regret nothing. I say what I mean. I have a First Amendment right. You know, for now. Until someone decides to take it away from me. Fucking politicians, man. But Snopes is in denial of the truth. The MSM is in denial of the truth. Snopes tried to shoot down, claiming it was a rumor, and presented facts to try and prove that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was in the best of health. And the MSM was also doing very much the same thing, sometimes even doing straight blackouts, of course. I mean, that's sort of respectable in a weird, in a backward sort of way. I mean, if you have nothing of substance to say, then why say anything at all? That's how I would see it, but I think they should institute major term limits for Supreme Court justices. Bottom line is, we need to end career politicians and start voting for independently wealthy politicians instead. Like Trump. Or like, hell, George Washington himself. There are stories of George Washington literally sitting at his presidential desk in a meeting while sitting there weaving hemp ropes together because he was a hemp farmer. He was literally doing his job while he was doing his job as president, rather. I think that's how it should be. I think it's time to stop voting for these authoritarian career politicians. Major term limits need to be put in place. It's like maybe do the same term limits they have on president. 8 years all across the board. Bottom line is, I think maybe Trump should appoint a conservative and just screw the Dems. Just put the screws to the Dems, period. And appoint all conservatives to every open position. And not necessarily Republican conservatives, because in some ways the Republican Party is not much better. Just hire, just appoint conservatives to each position. That's how I think it should be. Bottom line is, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not going to be with us for much longer. She will be leaving this world soon. Hey, like in that Australian hospital, maybe they should run a trial on her, give her magic mushrooms so she can depart the world relatively painlessly. That'd be hilarious. The idea of getting Ruth Bader Ginsburg high. Like I said today, I seem to be in a very giggly mood. Maybe I'll watch a comedy or something. I just feel like I am in the mood for a really good laugh. And some of these stories are so ridiculous. Not in that they're funny, but ridiculous in just the level and matter of implication. Like, have you ever seen anyone so dirty in your life that it actually makes me kind of laugh? There's at least 3 stories about Nancy Pelosi I have for you today. First one. Nancy Naughty Girl Pelosi. Very naughty girl indeed. Used military aircraft to shuttle family to and fro, which, by the way, she does not have the authority to do, nor should, even making use of the Air Force One on occasion. And by the way, this is very well sourced. The article I read literally has military, authentic Air Force documentation in it. Like, it's the real deal. I've never seen an article from my sources this well cited. Like, this is literally concrete. It's the conviction, that's all she wrote. She was abusing her authority. Clearly. Nancy Pelosi, you naughty, naughty girl. In fact, I'm gonna prove it to you right now. I'm gonna read you some of the military material, and I'm going to go one better. I'm going to put links to the documents in the video so you can look at it yourself. I think you'll be reasonably shocked. U.S. Air Force documents. Obtained by Judicial Watch, July 6, 2011, through FOIA. Summary. 1. Attached, you will find the package accounting for funds advanced for the expenses of Codel Pelosi. Order, all capitals, CODEL. Order number blah blah blah. I certify that the attached is a true and correct accounting of funds. Summary 2, destination dates Detroit, 11th January 10th. Summary 3, authority for travel USC 31st. 31. So this is an actual expense report. Like, straight up. And you can't say that this shit would be fake, because to fake something like this would literally be like a federal crime. It would be illegal. Part of it's got sideways here. It's, crane my neck. Ow! Okay, my neck hurts now. But yeah, I'll link you to it in the video so you can see that shit for yourself. Nancy freaking Pelosi, my God. Unbelievable level of just political filth of this woman. Hold on a second. Damn it. I thought I had the article. Hold on. Damn it. I lost the article. Anyway, just trust me, alright? You'll see the military stuff I was telling you about in the links. She was literally shuttling her family around. It's insane. What's more, Nancy Naughty Girl Pelosi has her flight to Afghanistan and Brussels and whatnot canceled, told to fly commercial, and she was absolutely furious. In fact, as a side note, Trump literally grabbed her bags and took them back to her office in his show of defiance. Like, damn. It's like he's punishing a naughty child or something. She was going to go there with democratic shutdowns despite the government shutdown. Trump was having none of it, though. Told to fly commercial using her own money instead of leeching public funds. This is an article, by the way. I didn't lose this one. I'll never forgive myself for that one, for accidentally clicking off. Due to the shutdown, I'm sorry to inform you that your trip to Brussels, Egypt, and Afghanistan has been postponed. We'll reschedule the 7-day excursion when the shutdown is over, the White House told Pelosi. In light of the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay, I am sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. Shortly after the White House issued the letter, Democratic lawmakers were left circling the U.S. Capitol amid blah blah blah. A mad scramble. It came off as a retaliatory nonetheless, and Trump ally Lindsey Graham said both parties' lead ought to knock it off. Yeah, I don't know. You could say they're both acting like children. It's more like Trump is like punishing a naughty or bratty child, almost. And she is very childlike, Pelosi. She seems to be suffering from some degree of arrested development, would be my evaluation.
But out of consideration for the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay and to ensure this tournament can assist as needed, President Trump has canceled his delegation's trip to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Sanders said in an early evening statement. All congressional delegation trips have been called off, the White House confirmed, until the shutdown ceases. I think that's a good idea. But it was not clear how much of a head start the president gave the House Speaker, although the official said that Trump took immediate action to keep her from leaving on a military jet. We want to keep her in Washington, Sanders told reporters gathered around her office. If she leaves, she guarantees that the second round of paychecks to 800,000 federal workers won't go out. The deadline to make the deal is midnight on Tuesday. She wasn't scheduled to be back until Wednesday. The president wants her to negotiate it. Pelosi had already called off a congressional recess amid the government shutdown, and the House was due to reconvene on Tuesday of next week. But Trump grounded her in a letter regardless that said she was taking the extraordinary step of postponing her trip. Due to the shutdown, I am sorry to inform you that your trip to Brussels, Egypt, and Afghanistan has been postponed. We will reschedule this 7-day excursion when the shutdown is over. In light of the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay, I'm sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. I also feel that during this period it would be better if you were in Washington negotiating with me and joining the strong border security movement to end the shutdown. Obviously, if you like to make your journey by flying commercial, that would certainly be your prerogative. I look forward to seeing you soon. Yep. Oh man, Trump, did he ever kick her ass. But this is a good thing, because her leaving will help her delay having to negotiate with him over the wall. And of course, the expenses, they just can't afford them right now with the shutdown. This is officially Pelosi and Schumer's shutdown, because they're the ones who are dragging it out. Trump is actually trying to expedite its end, with the wall in mind, of course, because that's what he wants more than anything. And for yet another Nancy Pelosi story, she's actually been reprimanded by the Secret Service because of her claim that Secret Service was being, that they weren't being paid, they couldn't protect Trump, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Secret Service said she was a liar, that they were still able to do their job and would continue to do so in spite of the shutdown. That now they've given her official reprimand for essentially weaponizing them against Trump in her negotiating tactics. I don't know, I guess the reason why I'm so giggly today is just because, damn, just all this shit happening to Nancy Pelosi. She's finally being nailed to the wall for all the bullshit, for all the lies, for all the filth, for all the misuse of funds and power. She's finally getting what she deserves. She's finally reaping what she's sown. And that, to me, I think is always somewhat satisfying. But this in particular, it's just a whole nother level of joy for me. I have to admit. I hate it. I hate it when fucking liberal Dems get away with shit. And when they don't get away with shit and actually get nailed to the wall like they deserve, I'm just all smiles. I will freely admit. A bill exists to abolish the IRS. This would essentially leave state. This bill is being media blackout. Of course, no one's talking about it, except for me and the article I read. Also very well sourced, not as well sourced as that military thing. Whew. But essentially, abolishing the IRS would leave taxation up to the state level and make it a state rights issue. Now, believe it or not, I actually kind of agree with this decision. Like, I am a conservative, and I am a moderate conservative, and I definitely lean in a very libertarian direction, in the sense that I am anti-authoritarian. So I guess I'm not so much libertarian as I'm an anti-authoritarian. Authoritarians be evil. But, bottom line is, you get rid of the IRS and you just leave the tax up to the states, up at the state level. I think that would be much better. That would increase state revenue somewhat for one, because then the states would be able to collect more taxes, right? And it would go straight to them. It wouldn't be a federal tax. And some people's lives have been literally wrecked by the IRS. Because high tax rates instituted by the legislature can be pretty crippling in some cases. Of course, some say if you just institute a 90% flat tax rate, well then no one will be poor. Yeah, but thing is, people aren't going to want their money stolen at that rate. No one's going to consent to an idea like that. The IRS is an organization that collects its federal-backed taxes and even does tax returns. But they can be very ruthless in how they operate. If you remove them and let taxation occur only at the state level, which will be enforced by state law and state police, I think things have the potential to be much more civil. And you know, state tax always comes down to a vote. So I would totally support the abolishing of the IRS. For that matter, why don't we get rid of half the frickin' alphabet soup agencies, except for this FBI. Keep the FBI and then just strip them down to like 1 or 2 departments. If you think I'm ignorant and maybe I don't understand tax, who knows, maybe I don't. Why don't you explain it to me down in the comment section? I'll certainly be willing to listen. But I think that a state tax is all that really should ever be needed. For our final story today, I'm going to read you a highly editorialized article. Like, I actually kind of feel bad for bringing this up, but I think it deserves some mentioning. So, here we go. Roger Stone. Deep state planning to install Pelosi, then Clinton, as president. Political consultant Roger Stone warns that the deep state is planning to overthrow President Trump so they can install Nancy Pelosi as president as part of a coup that will eventually see Hillary Clinton enter the White House. The deep state seeks to fabricate some misdeed by the Trump campaign that is sold as Russian collusion. That way they can remove both Donald Trump and Vice President Mike Pence, paving the way for Nancy Pelosi to become president. Pelosi will then appoint Hillary Clinton to the vacant vice presidency, after which Pelosi would resign as president, allowing Hillary to take the White House, which eluded her grasp in 2016. Trump and Pelosi are currently locked in a standoff over the government shutdown. Yesterday, Trump pulled a power move by blocking Pelosi's trip to Brussels and Afghanistan by halting her use of military aircraft. This followed Pelosi's demand that Trump postpone a State of the Union address scheduled for January 29th, or simply put it in writing. That was painful. There are almost no facts included in there, and mostly just opinions. Any facts that were included were shit already heard on this very program. They keep bringing up the deep state. Even Ron Paul thinks there's a deep state, but no one can actually prove that there is a deep state. They can't even provide philosophical proof. Which, for those of you not familiar, philosophical proof, basically, if you can prove how something would work in principle, then that opens up the door. It opens the door wide open to the possibility of it being a thing. But they can't even do that. And that's like the lowest form of evidence possible. They can't even do that. There is no deep state. There is the establishment. There is our political establishment, which is pro-war, oil-guzzling, a pro-war, pro-immigration, oil-guzzling monster. Well, I should say pro-illegal immigration. And and our establishment kind of works like a mafia. Some stuff they do out in the light of the day, some stuff they don't. That's not a deep state. That's just dirty politicking. Probably not a word, but I think you get what I mean. It's dirty politics. Anyway, make of that article what you will. That's it for the Young Globals today, folks. I'm out.